In 1912, a factory worker named Thomas was blacklisted from his industry simply because he chose to eat lunch alone rather than join the floor manager's daily gossip ring. Society has always punished the quiet observer, not because they are broken, but because someone who doesn't need the group cannot be controlled by the group. Niccolo Machiavelli wrote the ultimate guidebook on power. For centuries, people have studied his work to learn how to play the social chessboard, how to manipulate the masses, and how to outmaneuver their enemies. He taught that power is entirely dependent on how well you can pull the strings of the people around you, but he missed one glaring, fatal flaw in his own philosophy. Machiavelli assumed that power always requires a crowd. He assumed that to be powerful, you must be in the center of the ring, fighting for dominance, managing alliances, and constantly wearing a mask to keep your subjects in line. But what if you refuse to step into the ring at all? What if the ultimate power isn't about controlling the room, but having the absolute freedom to walk away from it? Welcome to the blind spot of every manipulator, toxic manager, and social climber, the lone wolf advantage. We live in a world that is obsessed with extroversion. From the moment we are young, we are told that being a team player is the only path to success. We are taught that being loud equals being confident, and that blending into the herd is the only way to be safe. If you prefer your own company, if you sit back and observe instead of fighting for the microphone, society slaps a label on you. They call you weird, aloof, or arrogant. But let's look at why they do that. People don't label you because there is something wrong with you. They label you because your silence makes them uncomfortable. Most people are deeply dependent on external validation. They need applause. They need someone to agree with them. They need an audience for their drama. When you are a highly observant loner, you naturally deny them that audience. You become a mirror reflecting their own insecurities back at them. And to a manipulator or a highly toxic person, someone who doesn't need them is terrifying. Let's bring this into the real world, straight into the modern battlefield, the workplace. Imagine a typical office environment. It is usually a breeding ground for Machiavellian tactics. You have coworkers throwing each other under the bus to get a minor promotion. You have managers who play favorites. You have people gossiping in the break room to form petty alliances. Everyone is scrambling, stressed, and exhausted, desperately trying to play the game. Now, imagine the observer. You come in, you do your job impeccably, and you stay out of the drama. When someone tries to drag you into a rumor, you give a neutral nod and walk away. When a loud, aggressive coworker tries to take credit for something or provoke a reaction out of you, you don't get angry. You just stare at them with total, blank indifference. In that moment, you have completely disarmed them. Manipulators rely on your reaction. They want you to get defensive, because if you are defending yourself, you are playing by their rules. They want you to get angry, because anger makes you predictable. But silence, absolute, unbothered silence, that is a black hole. It absorbs their energy and gives absolutely nothing back. When you refuse to react to office politics, you become a wild card. The people who spend all day trying to figure out how to climb over others suddenly don't know what to do with you. Because you aren't fighting them for the spotlight, they can't predict your next move. Because you don't share your personal life or your deepest insecurities at the water cooler, they have no ammunition to use against you. Your solitude becomes an impenetrable armor. Machiavelli dedicated entire chapters to building networks, forming alliances, and keeping friends close but enemies closer. He believed that isolation was a death sentence for a ruler. But in the modern world, alliances are often liabilities disguised as assets. When you tie your success to a network, you inherit their enemies, their drama, and their incompetence. If you rely on a group of colleagues to back you up in a corporate dispute, you are placing your fate in the hands of people who would gladly trade your loyalty for a minor advantage or a temporary pay bump. The group is fickle. The group changes its mind based on whoever is speaking the loudest. The lone wolf understands the terrifying fragility of the group. A pack is only as strong as its weakest, most insecure member. When you operate independently, you have absolutely zero weak links. You don't have to compromise your vision or your ethics to satisfy a committee. You don't have to apologize for someone else's catastrophic mistakes. Your victories belong entirely to you, and your failures are solely your own to fix. This level of extreme accountability crushes the average person. But for the quiet observer, it is the ultimate form of freedom. You maneuver through the workplace like a ghost. While factions are busy destroying each other over office politics, you bypass the war zone entirely, delivering undeniable results that cannot be argued with.
To truly appreciate the advantage of solitude, you have to dissect the psychology of your opponent, the loud, aggressive social climber. They appear powerful because they take up space, but their psychology is built on a house of cards. They are trapped in a constant, exhausting state of performance. If they are not being watched, they feel they do not exist. Their power requires constant feeding from the outside world. They desperately need people to agree with them, fear them, or applaud them. Without the crowd, they are nothing.
This makes them incredibly easy to read and even easier to defeat. A traditional Machiavellian player would tell you to flatter them to gain their favor, or to aggressively challenge them in public to establish dominance. The loner does neither. The loner simply starves them. By withholding the reaction they so desperately crave, you force them to escalate their own behavior. Because you give them nothing to work with, they start to panic. They get louder, they get more erratic, they overplay their hand, and eventually they make a fatal mistake in front of the wrong person. You didn't have to lay a trap. You just had to stand perfectly still and let their own desperate need for attention destroy them. This is weaponized solitude. It is not about hiding in a corner because you are afraid of the world. It is a calculated, strategic retreat. It is the realization that 90% of the battles people fight every day are completely meaningless, and your energy is far too valuable to waste on them. Machiavelli said it is better to be feared than loved, but the loner woes a deeper truth. It is better to be entirely unbothered than either. When you cultivate true independence, you strip the world of its leverage over you. Think about what a manipulator needs to control you. They need you to want something from them. They need you to want their approval, their friendship, or their inclusion in the group. If you are deeply comfortable sitting alone, eating alone, and working alone, what can they possibly threaten you with? Exclusion? You already chose that yourself. Isolation? That is your comfort zone. By embracing the exact thing they use as a punishment, you become psychologically untouchable. But achieving this state doesn't happen overnight. It requires a massive shift in how you view yourself. You have to stop seeing your preference for solitude as a character flaw that needs to be fixed. You are not a broken extrovert. You are a highly calibrated observer.
To step into this power, you need to master the art of the void. The art of the void means understanding that your attention is a currency, and most people are trying to steal it from you. When a coworker tries to bait you into an argument, they are begging for your attention. When a toxic person tries to make you feel guilty for not attending a mandatory fun social event after hours, they are demanding your energy. You must learn to aggressively protect that energy. If a conversation holds no value, let it die. You do not have to fill the awkward silence. If someone is speaking just to hear their own voice, let them. You don't have to agree, you don't have to disagree, you just observe. You let their words hit the void. This technique is sometimes called the gray rock method in psychology, but we are taking it a step further. We aren't just being boring to make them go away. We are being perfectly still to see who they really are. Because when you stop reacting, people will eventually show their true colors. In their desperation to get a reaction out of you, they will drop their masks. The quiet observer always learns the truth about everyone in the room, simply because they are the only one not talking.
This brings us to one of the most lethal tools in the loner's arsenal, the extreme economy of words. When you're constantly talking, your words lose their value. Think about the office gossip, the constant complainer, or the manager who holds meetings just to hear themselves speak. Their voices become white noise. People tune them out because they know the supply of words is endless and cheap. They talk to fill the space, not to add value to it. But when you are the quietest person in the room, a fascinating psychological phenomenon occurs. Scarcity creates massive value. Because you speak so rarely, people unconsciously assign immense weight to whatever you do say. Imagine a scenario where a project is failing, a deadline is looming, and everyone is panicking and shouting over one another in a conference room. The loud people are blaming each other, the manipulators are trying to cover their tracks. Then the quiet observer clears their throat. The entire room falls silent. You don't have to raise your voice to compete with them. You don't have to bang your fist on the table. You simply state the solution with cold, detached, undeniable logic.
In a room full of emotional chaos, the person who speaks with calm, calculated precision is instantly perceived as the ultimate authority. You aren't playing a psychological trick. You are simply leveraging the silence you have cultivated. When you finally speak, your words become law.
But what happens when the fight comes directly to you? What happens when a toxic individual tries to corner you, demanding an explanation, raising their voice, or trying to publicly humiliate you to boost their own status? Traditional advice says you must verbally defend your honor. Machiavelli in dark psychology says you must counterattack ruthlessly and expose their deepest insecurities to the crowd. The empowered loner uses a much simpler, far more devastating defensive measure: the tactical stare. When confronted with an aggressive, unjustified attack, you do absolutely nothing. You do not answer the accusation because answering validates the false premise of their attack. Instead, you look directly at them. You hold eye contact, completely devoid of emotion, for just 3 seconds longer than is socially comfortable. You look at them not with anger, not with fear, but with mild clinical curiosity, the exact way a scientist would look at a wildly thrashing insect trapped under a microscope. You let the silence hang in the air until it becomes suffocating for them. Then you offer a simple, entirely non-committal phrase like, "Are you finished?" and you physically leave the space.
This is a devastating, ego-shattering blow to a manipulator. It communicates instantly that they are not a threat to you. It tells them they are merely a temporary annoyance that you do not have the time or the respect to entertain. You win the confrontation by refusing to participate in it.
Let's look at the concept of boundaries. Traditional advice tells you that you need to loudly declare your boundaries. You need to sit people down and explain to them how they should treat you. But in reality, over-explaining your boundaries is just another way of asking for permission to have them. The lone wolf doesn't explain their boundaries. They simply enforce them through action. If a situation is disrespectful, you don't argue, you remove your presence. When you stop giving people words to argue with and only give them actions to deal with, you take back all the control. This is where the true empowerment of solitude lies. It gives you the space to build a mind that cannot be shaken by external storms. When you spend time alone, you get to know the sound of your own voice. You figure out what you actually value, untainted by the opinions of the crowd. You build a foundation of self-worth that isn't tied to how many people like you. And when you have that foundation, the manipulation tactics of the world simply bounce off you. You start to view social dynamics not as a game you have to win, but as a movie you are watching. You can see the tragic irony of the people tearing themselves apart for a scrap of validation. You can see the hollow victories of the Machiavellian players who gain power but lose their peace of mind. And you can smile, knowing you have the one thing they will never have: freedom. While your peers are exhausting their mental bandwidth on workplace gossip, maintaining fake public personas, and agonizing over who was invited to what social gathering, you are quietly building an empire of extreme competence. Solitude is the ultimate laboratory of mastery. Without the constant interruption of social obligation, you have the rare, uninterrupted focus required to become dangerously good at what you do. Whether it is mastering a complex new skill, starting a lucrative business in the shadows, or achieving a level of physical and mental discipline that others only dream of, you are compounding your value in the dark. By the time the crowd realizes what you have been doing, you are completely out of their league. You have transcended the very hierarchy they are still blindly fighting to climb. Machiavelli believed that power was given to you by the people you managed to control. The truth is, external power is always temporary. The only permanent power is the unbreakable competence and resilience you build when absolutely no one is watching. So the next time someone tries to make you feel inferior for being quiet, remember what they are actually reacting to. They aren't reacting to your weakness. They are reacting to your terrifying self-sufficiency.
You don't need to learn how to manipulate others. You don't need to memorize dark psychology tricks to make people obsessed with you. You only need to master yourself, because the person who masters themselves can never be mastered by anyone else. Embrace the silence. Protect your energy. Let the loud people exhaust themselves fighting over the throne. You don't need a throne, because you already own the entire kingdom in your own mind.